I've recently decided to purchase the Smallrig 3646 teleprompter, as I have a few shoots coming up here pretty soon that are required. At the same time, I went ahead and invested in an iPad 9, and while it's not the latest generation, it was on sale and it's more than enough for what I need. Anyway, while searching the internet for information about this specific teleprompter, there was a lot of information that was not there. And so I'm hoping that this video can work to fill in some of those gaps. Note, this is simply a first impressions video, but I am willing to do a follow-up at a later date if you all think it will be useful. Beginning with the case itself, it is pretty lightweight, especially when compared to some of the harder cases that's out there. However, you should have no problem with transporting this from location to location. Let me go ahead and open this up. So first of all, there are two zippers on here. There's a double-sided zipper. One is on the front here, one is on the front here, and there's another zipper on the back there. And so if you were to open up the front zipper, you'll be faced with the actual teleprompter. And what I like about this is that there's a flap here that is used to cover up the glass. So when you are setting up this specific teleprompter, you don't have to worry about touching the glass, right? Now, really quickly, I just want to state, if you were to take this out, right, this foam right here must be positioned back in here in a very particular way in order for you to be able to put that flap right back over this screen. So, boom. There's also a microfiber cloth here if you're interested in that. So let me just zip this up really quickly and flip back over to the other side. Or flip over rather. So the other side here, this is where your accessories live. This is where you'll find all your accessories. So this right here is used to connect your tablet to the actual teleprompter. And there's some complaints online about this only being big enough for a phone. But if you were to click this button right here, let me see, you gonna come into focus? If you were to click this right here, you'll be able to extend it out even further, right? And plus, in the description, it specifically says that this teleprompter is not for mobile devices. But I am sure that there's some type of way you can rig it up. Here's the remote that I would never ever use. This is actually my first time taking it out. Let me just put that back in there. And then you have this right here, which is used to connect to your actual rod system. Now, I want you to be mindful of something when you are connecting this. So this bottom here, this bottom piece here where you screw at, right? This bottom piece is actually used to screw on the bottom of your, well, I guess this is the top piece, excuse me. So this top piece here is used to screw at the bottom of your actual teleprompter, right? And then this right here is what connects to your rods. See, this connects to your rods. And so something to be mindful of that I have to discover is that, so one side right here, or one side right here is specifically to clamp down onto the rods that's on your actual rig. And then the other side is really for the up and down. So for instance, this will clamp onto your rig, onto your system, and you would just tighten it down around the rod so that it's not sliding back and forth. And this right here will also go over your rod, but it is for the up and down, right? So you can secure this right here. So for instance, I could take this and lock it up right here, and now it's not sliding anywhere. And this is evident by this space that you got right here for the other side. This is how you could tell that it's meant to be tightened around your rod within your system. And plus, there's an icon right here. I'm not sure if you can see it. There you go. There's an icon right here that indicates up and down. And that's how you know which side is for which part of your actual rig. Cool beans? Cool beans. So, I guess I'll put this back right here for a second. And then we can go on to take out the actual teleprompter, because I kind of just want to show you how this works. Before I get to that, here's my actual rig. This is my usual compact rig. If you are interested in this, I will leave a link down in the description to my video about my compact corporate rig. And within it, I have all the pieces that I use to build this here, plus my top handle that I typically use, along with all the other accessories. Now, initially when I purchased this teleprompter system, I was hoping to be able to use it with my 6-inch rods that I have here, but I knew that it was wishful thinking and less than likely to be possible, right? Especially with my go-to lens being the 24 to 70 millimeter by Sigma Art. And so I knew I probably wasn't gonna be able to use my 6-inch rods, which is fine. So at the same time, I decided to purchase these 12-inch rods, which works perfectly. There you go. And so I really want to state really quickly that if you are deciding to purchase this specific teleprompter, you have to be very mindful, because if you don't have a way to transfer the script onto your monitor, i.e. with a tablet of some sort, that is an additional purchase you have to make. If your current camera system is not a rig system, a rod system, excuse me, then there may be additional purchases that you have to make. For me, the only additional purchase I had to make as it pertains to my rod system are the actual rods, because I was already using 6-inch rods. I also had to purchase a tablet, like I mentioned at the top of this video, but the iPad 9 was on sale for like $200, and I figured that to be a worthy investment. And so that's my story. It's just something that I want you to be mindful of if you are making the decision to whether to purchase this or not. And so what I want to do really quickly is kind of break this down a bit. And so I can get my camera up off here. And then I also want to take this V mount off. Put that to the side. And then, of course, I also want to take this up. Well, I could leave that on probably and just get rid of these rods, at least for now. All right, slide those out. Put that to the side. And then I'm just going to put these rods in here to replace my 6-inch rods. Boom. And so something else that I discovered while putting this all together is that something may not be straight. And I don't know if it's my actual rods or if it's this piece here, but something isn't straight. It's just something to be mindful of. And I'm gonna tell you why I say that in a second. So if I was to tighten these down, just want to make sure y'all can see it in this top view. All right, so boom. Let's say I was to tighten these rods down, right? Theoretically, I should be able to just take this and slide it on. And the way I'm doing this is that I have my icons on the front here. You probably can't see it right now, but oh, there you go. Right, so I have my icons on the front there so I can know which is which. And it's so difficult to just slide it on. I struggle with this, right? But I think, like, for instance, you see how hard it was to just take it on, to put it on and take it off? If I was to loosen these rods back up, right, and then attach this, I find it to be much easier. And I think that's because while it's loose, it can bend in slightly if need be, or it could do micro adjustments in order for it to be able to fit. Just something to be mindful of. Or if you happen to purchase this and you have a different experience, I would love to hear about that. So let's rewind it a bit, and we have everything right here laid out. If I was building this up for a gig that I had coming up, the first thing I would do is attach my rods. Oops. Set that to the side. No, I did not tighten it. Grab up my camera. Make sure you remove your lens when you are attaching your teleprompter to it, right? You would hate to slide it in and you got a cap on, you gotta take it back out. So here's the actual teleprompter, and it's this boot right here, this silicone boot that is used to cover over the lens, right? This what allows for you to not have to use a bigger, bulky teleprompter system, or one of the ones that should sit on top of the lens. I'm not a fan of because of the added weight. So by unscrewing this right here, by unscrewing this, focus, by unscrewing this, it unloosens the boot. So I'm able to just pull that out, boom, separate that, move that to the side. Now go ahead and put this on my lens. Now the reason I'm doing this first is so that I have space to actually attach it, because once everything is on a rod system, it becomes that much more difficult to do so. So just extend that and then make sure everything is lined up. And the amount of time this will take to fix is contingent upon how much of a perfectionist you are. And then these little flaps here can be used to just pull, lift, or whatever, so you can make your adjustments. So once that's on there, set that back to the side. And then we could go ahead and attach all the components of the actual teleprompter together. So like I've mentioned before, with this system right here that connects directly to your rod system, this side with the little loosey-goosey hole behind it, this is to tighten up on your actual rod. And this side right here with the arrow that goes up and down, you guessed it, it's for your vertical, right? So if I was to tighten up this over here right now, I can no longer move it up and down. It's for the vertical, so that once you put everything on your system, you'll be able to adjust the actual teleprompter to where it needs to be so it could fit over your actual lens. So take this and connect it to your mount for your actual tablet. There are some reviews where people complain about this only being big enough for a phone, but that's not the case. If you was to hit this button right here, it'll extend further. And in the description for this actual teleprompter, it specifically states that it is not for mobile devices. But I'm sure that you can rig it up if you really felt the need to do so. Sure, you can figure that out. So anyway, I'm just gonna attach this to this piece over here. Make sure I do it the right way. It's a little screw down there, right, to this screw right here. And it just goes together real bad. Tighten that up. Let me flip this back the right way. Boom. Right, once these two are together, I'm gonna just go ahead and attach this to the actual teleprompter. And there's a screw at the bottom of the teleprompter that's made specifically for this to go to. So I'm just gonna tighten these two pieces together. Boom, so now it's all one piece with the vertical axis sliding up and down. All right, boom, once we got that situated, I'm gonna put this back to the side for now, scratching up my desk. Then I'm gonna bring my base back over here. And I've learned that keeping this a bit loose can make for your teleprompter to slide on more quickly. I think it has something to do with micro adjustments that can be made, because once it's tightened down completely and you can't move these rods at all, it just becomes difficult to slide it on. And so I'm just gonna loosen this up. If you've had a different experience with this same unit, let me know. I would love to hear about it. So boom, I'm just gonna slide this rods into this rod system, nice and easy. And I'm gonna tighten up the one that's on this side right here, right at the very edge of it. And then I'll straighten out this second one. Make sure they're tight. But this second one don't really matter because like I said, even with it tight, I can still slide the rod back and forth because it's really for the vertical axis. So it's not until I tighten it up on the actual base will it stop moving, all right? It's no more give. But once that's set up properly, I'll go ahead and put my actual camera on the base. And because we put this boot on a lens prior to, now it's just easier to slide in as opposed to having to put the boot on after everything is already set up in the rig. And so let me just see if I can slide that in. No, I cannot. No, I cannot. So I'm gonna loosen this back up. There you go. Just so I can slide my base back a little bit. Lock this in. And like I said, if you're interested in all the pieces that I typically use for my rig, I'll leave a link down in the description below. And because since I still have these rods loose, what it's gonna allow for me to do is actually to slide it back in here. And as we can see, the teleprompter is just a bit too high. And so what I'm gonna have to do is loosen up this vertical screw over here on the side that you can't see, but you know it's there. That way I can move this up and down. And once I get it where I need it to be so it can slide over my lens, guess what? Tighten it right back up. All right. You almost lost the rod there. There you go though. Slide that back in there like that. And then once I see that they're both lined up, we could now tighten the rods that's on the actual base. So no more sliding, right? And now, since this slid in here properly, we can just tighten this down. Now it's an easy day, it's secure. It's secure, right? It's good to go. One of the things I want to touch on before moving forward is right now you can see I have this lens extended all the way out to 70 millimeters. And you can tell by this space right here, it does extend externally. And so one of the tips or tricks or something I just want to show you as it pertains to this specifically is that if I was to loosen up the rods once again, the rods that are on the actual base, right? If I was to loosen it up, what ends up happening is that now I have the ability to slide the entire base back and forth along the rods like how I just did when I was adjusting. And so, because it's too much weight on here right now, and I'll probably be able to show y'all in a different shot, unless I can get it through right now. But essentially, what this gives way to is for me to be able to zoom back and forth. So not so much forward, it's not as easily. I'll just have to show y'all on the tripod. Before I go put this on the tripod, let me just show y'all really quickly, even with this rig, you slide this plate on the back, tighten it up, add your V-mount battery. You good to go. You don't have to break it down or anything like that. But let me go put this on the tripod so I can show you this last thing and I can get ready to wrap this all up. Unfortunately, I let a buddy of mine borrow my other tripod. This is what we got. So this is what we're going to use. And so with the rods loosened inside of the actual base, not under the teleprompter, with the rods loosened, if you were to just zoom, right now we're at 24 millimeters. If I was to zoom in, I can gently just push the V-mount battery. And so it's easier to zoom in than it is to zoom out, because when you're zooming out, you run the risk of the boot slipping off the actual lens. And so let's try that again. Pushing in, just push the V-mount in, and you can see it goes forward, right? Of course, it'll be more controlled with my hand on the actual zoom, going back and forth, right? And so this is just so if you was to set up your teleprompter and you're just doing it generally and you're not sure where your talent is going to be and you need to zoom in or zoom out, this is a way for you to be able to do that with a zoom lens using this teleprompter on a rod system, just don't forget to tighten them back down once you find your proper composition. So far, this is what our rig looks like with the teleprompter on the front. What I can go on to do now is add this V-mount plate to the back of my rig. All right. And then I could even go on to add my V-mount battery back. And so this whole entire thing, you see the bottom here, this whole entire thing, it sits down on your tripod. And note that this right here is always going to be front heavy, even with the battery on the back, because the because the teleprompter is a bit heavy. And then you're gonna add the tablet to the front as well. So it's always gonna be front heavy. I didn't mention this, but you can put different filters in there. It's not really a part of my work case. It's not a part of what I'll be doing moving forward. So I almost forgot to mention that. And I like the way this looks. I like the way that it's built. One of the reasons I decided to go with this particular teleprompter as opposed to the other ones is because the other teleprompters that's out there, it requires you to break your full rig down. It requires you to do this cloak and dagger so you can cover everything up. And it's also a bit big and bulky, which makes it a bit harder for transport. And since I already had a rod system, I could just put this on here just like that, easy day. My rig is still mostly built with this. I just put my top handle on, my monitor, etc., etc. But all in all, it doesn't require too much, right? The whole cover that you typically get with other types of teleprompters is not needed here simply because of this silicone boot that keeps light from leaking in and hitting your lens. And I did read somewhere that if you were to take your lens and apply a step-up ring up into 95 millimeters, you may not even need this boot because a 95 millimeter will go directly into the back of the teleprompter. And so I've yet to test that out. It may be something that I do in the future going forward, but for now, this is enough to get the job done, and I'm happy with it overall. With all of that being said, I believe I covered all the bases as it pertains to purchasing a teleprompter, or specifically purchasing this teleprompter. This is the video that I wish was out there, and so hopefully you have found this video to be useful. If there are any specific questions that you have, be sure to drop it in a comment below, and I will be sure to respond. Thank you for sticking around here with me in this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Love.